Let's investigate that just a little bit more. So, what was the community response after this was all installed? And I'm going to go to Sam for that question because I know, Sam, you had some interesting things to share there.
Yeah, I think, on top of the benefits that Dwight mentioned, it was really an inspiring new technology for them. They were really proud to have this new sense of innovation at their high school. That the kitchen is kind of right where you drive up to the high school, and really a showcase for them of that they're forward thinking, innovative with new technology. And as Tim mentioned earlier, that these solar collectors are pretty large and pretty darn cool looking. So really a cool thing for them to show off. And as we were installing the system, crowds of students would gather around the fence to observe the process. You could just tell a real sense of pride and interest outside of just the cooks that use the kitchen. So that was really cool to see on top of just the direct impacts inside the kitchen area.
That's great. And Dwight, do you have anything to add to that in terms of what your observations were when you were there on site?
I think the thing that sticks with me is the big smile on the face of the cooks when they opened the valve and hot water started pouring out into the pot. That was a really cool moment.
That's great. Paul, what has it been like? You're there, you've seen it, it's what, a year down the road, a couple months down the road. What's kind of been the feel and the mood from there?
All right, so then there, it was my first time, participating in such installation, and I was eager to learn more. But the exciting part was after we got the components, and then we realized that the plans that we had already made had to be changed. So I remember that night, Dwight and Sam and then Nuru and myself, we had to come together and make a whole new list of different piping materials that we have to get. So that moment made me understand that whatever probably you might have planned on paper might not happen on the field. So you have to be always prepared. You have to be always ready. So that was a big eye-opening session for me, and it really helped me in my engineering career. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it sounds like quite an amazing, rewarding challenge type of experience for an engineer or aspiring engineer. And speaking of that, Ryan, I want to turn the conversation to you. Can you tell us, I'd like to pick your brain and hear what your thoughts are on what for you was the most fulfilling part of participating in this project.
Yeah, for sure. I would say the most fulfilling part for us of this project was just seeing the great joy that it brought the cooks. Just seeing in person how difficult their task is, just how hard they work each day to make sure that no student at Ullo Senior High goes hungry was really inspiring. These difficult conditions were really contrasted though by the great joy that they had, the great gratitude they had. Each day we spent installing the solar heaters, they were standing there watching our progress all excitedly. And like Dwight mentioned earlier, the afternoon we finished the project, the head cook asked politely if it was ready, if they could use it. And then they just went over and cranked it on with a big smile and saw all the hot water pouring out. And at the end of the day, that's really what the most fulfilling part of all of the work we do for Engineers Without Borders. It's all about the people, everything we do, we're really excited that this project is going to reduce firewood use a lot, but we're even more excited that reduces the amount of firewood that these cooks have to carry every morning, that they have to buy every day, that comes out of their money to buy food for the kids. We're excited about the CO2 emissions that it will reduce, but we're more excited about the fact that all of that smoke is no longer going to be going into the cook's lungs. So at the end of the day, it's really just the impact on the people in the community. And it was really inspiring just to get to see that in face-to-face with the cooks. And we're just really grateful that ASHRAE has supported us throughout this whole process and given us the funds to be able to make that impact happen.
Ryan, wow, you said a lot right there. And I just want to touch on that point about the passion that's what I hear from everybody on this call as we go through this, is just a sense of passion in each of their own ways. Dwight, I'm going to come to you for our last question. Talk a little bit more about that passion. How does this project and its overall goals align with the passions not only of Cedar Valley ASHRAE, of which you're a founding member, but also with design engineers? And how does that connect with EWB, or Engineers Without Borders? And tell us a little bit more about that passion aspect.
Yeah, we believe that engineers are uniquely positioned to make a difference in the world, in particular in mitigating climate change. It's something that as engineers, we can have a direct impact on. We design systems that use energy, and what's happened historically is that energy has come from fossil fuels that emit carbon emissions that has driven climate change. So in the work that we do as engineers to design those systems, to the extent that we can change that, we can have a direct impact on mitigating climate change in a way that is really unique to our profession. So whether it's ASHRAE as an engineering organization, Engineers Without Borders as an engineering organization, students in engineering schools, we all have an ability to have a very direct impact on one of the biggest challenges facing humanity. So that's, I think, what drives the passion. The other part of it for us and for me personally is the chance to do something in this realm internationally was really cool. And it's not easy to do that in a way that's actually useful. So the cross-cultural exchange is I think almost always good, but the actual implementation of a technology that is relevant and useful in that community is not an easy thing. And it was something that going into this that I know I and others here were concerned about is there a way to translate what we know here in Iowa into something that is useful in Ghana? That's not a straightforward thing. And so it was really cool to see how that all came together, and then being able to travel to Ghana and meet Paul and Nuro and the people in the community and see that there really is a way to make that translation, not just in terms of cross-cultural, which was very significant, but also even in technology across the ocean, literally. So that was, I think, just a great way to see how these different organizations, from ASHRAE to Engineers Without Borders to the local community to design engineers as a professional engineering firm, were all able to come together and make something like this happen.
That's excellent. That certainly does align with ASHRAE's mission to serve humanity by advancing the arts and sciences of HVAC. Couldn't have said it better any other way, Dwight. Thank you for sharing that. Well, with that, I'd like to thank each of you for telling your part of the story in this larger adventure, and thank everybody for listening in. With a very special thanks on behalf of ASHRAE Cedar Valley Board of Governors to each and every one of our ASHRAE Cedar Valley Chapter members, whose volunteerism makes projects just like this one possible. Every hour that you dedicate and every dollar that you contribute to ASHRAE helps to advance the art and science of the industry, just like you heard here today, and of course, improve humanity along the way. Thank you.